Sawadee krap, you're watching Thailand News Today, and on today's program, the Thai government is now ordering the Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson vaccines. The Prime Minister's younger brother gets a corruption probe and a progress update on herd immunity on the islands. Details on these stories coming right after we acknowledge our latest Tiger legend, Chris Kennedy. Thank you so much for being a member. Now you can support the channel too by hitting that join button to become a Tiger legend. Also download the Tiger app, available on iOS and Android, which is available at everyone's favorite price, free. All right, let's get on with the news. The Thai government is ordering 20 million doses of the Pfizer Covid-19 vaccine, along with 5 million of the Johnson & Johnson single-dose vaccine. Deliveries are expected in the second half of the year. The public health minister says the Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson doses are in addition to another 8 million Sinovac doses, enabling the government to achieve its target of administering 100 million doses this year. PM General Prayut Chan-o-cha confirmed yesterday that 61 million AstraZeneca doses are also on order from their Made in Thailand facility. Thailand's FDA approved the Johnson & Johnson vaccine in March, and then things went very quiet. The Pfizer vaccine has yet to be approved by the FDA, but the health minister Anutin says the manufacturer has agreed to set aside between 10 to 20 million doses for Thailand. The government's mass vaccination got underway on Monday, although many have had their appointments postponed as hospitals around the country ended up receiving fewer doses than expected. Meanwhile, the Public Health Ministry has instructed Thai hospitals to honor vaccination appointments, even though they may not have received the number of doses expected. The Health Ministry says it's vital that people over the age of 60, as well as those with one or more of the 7 listed underlying health conditions, receive a COVID-19 vaccine. The government says most hospitals have received enough vaccine doses to kick off mass vaccination on Monday. However, around 20% of hospitals have received fewer doses than expected, but is asking the hospitals to honor the appointments for the elderly and people with underlying conditions. Police have arrested a group of Burmese migrants and an alleged guide from Myanmar in Hat Yai district in Songkhla province. Officers say the guide was leading the migrants from Mo Mien, a city on Myanmar's western coast, then across the Thai border to the southern province of Rayong. They were headed towards Malaysia, where they had jobs lined up for them. The migrants allegedly told the police that they had paid 15,000 baht each to the job brokers. Border Patrol has tightened along Thailand's natural crossings to Myanmar and Malaysia in an effort to prevent COVID-19 from seeping through Thailand's porous borders. In just the past 4 days, more than 40 Burmese migrants have been arrested in Hat Yai while on their way to jobs in Malaysia, which is under a country-wide lockdown due to a recent spike in COVID-19. Police say the illegal migrants will be deported and the traffickers handed over to the Burmese police. Prime Minister General Prayut Chan-o-cha's younger brother is in hot water, with the National Anti-Corruption Commission charging Senator Prayut Chan-o-cha with concealing assets. The NACC voted unanimously on acknowledging the charge and serving notice to the PM's sibling. The younger Chan-o-cha was a member of the parliamentary body, the National Legislative Assembly, between 2014 and 19, and is accused of hiding his and his wife's assets during that time. The Deputy Secretary General of the NACC was careful to point out that the group had not decided that there was enough evidence for a formal charge of corruption in Prayut submitting a false asset declaration, but are still investigating the allegations. Prayut now has a chance for a rebuttal in response to the corruption notice before any formal charges are levied by the NACC. The charges allege he did not include a bank account his wife owns and a home in Phitsanulok province. Hey, guess what? The government has launched a website for COVID-19 vaccinations for foreigners in Thailand. They even remembered to write it in English this time. Details on this after a quick break.
The Tiger is getting behind businesses for the restart of tourism next month. With 60,000 daily YouTube viewers, and around 8 million clicks on our website each month, half of them from overseas, Let us help you get in contact with the next wave of inbound travelers. Thaiger is offering 50% discounts on packages right through this month. Details in the description under this video.
Welcome back, boys and girls, and as I mentioned earlier, the website thailandintervac.com has been launched for COVID-19 vaccinations for foreigners in Thailand. Now, at the moment, registration on the site is only open to expats who are 60 years old or above and those with certain health conditions that put them at risk of a severe infection. Now, in related news, a drive-thru COVID-19 vaccination service has opened up in Phuket, allowing those 60 years and above to be inoculated before the July 1st reopening. The island is trying to get 7 drive-thrus up and running. The drive-thru is for people over 60 and those with underlying health conditions to get inoculated without having to get out of their cars. Health officials started offering the service after noticing that many elderly people had trouble walking through the large Sapanhin gymnasium to get a vaccine. Before the drive-thru service, people would need to walk from the car park and then up 2 flights of stairs to get to the waiting area for a vaccine. They'd have to walk to an area for a health check and then wait in line for a vaccination. Now, older adults and those who have health conditions that make walking difficult or tiring can stay seated in their car for a vaccination. The Association of Thai Travel Agents says the ongoing reporting of over 2,000 COVID-19 infections every day means that there will be no Chinese visitors coming for a while. China has imposed tough restrictions on their citizens leaving the country, including mandatory quarantine on their return. In the southern city of Guangzhou, strict travel restrictions are in place to prevent the spread of the highly contagious Delta variant. The outbreak in Thailand means there's little hope of luring Chinese travelers to the kingdom during the huge October Golden Week, which is a significant week-long holiday period in China. They also doubt Phuket's quarantine-free sandbox scheme will attract any vaccinated Chinese tourists due to the fact that they will then be obligated to quarantine on their return home. He adds that the same applies to most Asian countries whose citizens are unlikely to travel internationally until the last quarter of the year at the earliest. And time for today's COVID numbers. As usual, if you don't want to hear, it's time to stick your fingers in your ears. 2,680 new COVID-19 cases and 35 coronavirus-related deaths were reported today. Since April the 1st, 156,365 COVID infections have been reported in Thailand. Today, 280 of the infections were from Thai prisons. Meanwhile, around 50% of the population on Koh Samui have been vaccinated against COVID-19. Health officials have accelerated the immunization campaign in an effort to reach herd immunity, or 70% of the population inoculated, by the end of the month to reopen the island to foreign tourists under the Samui sealed route travel model. Based on the Phuket Sandbox, the Samui tourism operators are trying to get the government to agree to a reopening model for July the 1st as well. And that's all for the news. Check out the suggested video that just popped up for more delicious Thaiger content. Thank you so much for watching, and Sawadee krap.